Hello everyone, my name is Adam Garman. Today we're going to talk about the basics of ultrasound. So let's get right to it. Alright, so what we're going to go over is the general principles of ultrasound, different types of probes, probe markers, how to hold it once you have it in your hand, probe motion, how do you fine tune an image once you get it where you want it to be, gain, depth. It's really important. Kind of go over some different tissue differentiation. So, just some general overviews. What are the benefits of ultrasound? Benefits of ultrasound are that it's super fast, it's super easy, it's cost effective for the patients. You're able to see pathology in real time, and you're actually able to spend time with your patients. Now, even if you don't find anything, your patient's going to appreciate the fact that you're in the room doing something with them. And that's just going to be, it's going to lead to a better experience for the patient. So that's really important. Now let's get into something kind of nerdy. So piezoelectric crystals. There's a little electric circuit that's hooked up to these piezoelectric crystals. Now, why does that matter? These crystals, when electricity is added to them, they emit sound. They vibrate and they emit sound. That sound goes into your body. And depending on the angle of the sound coming in, so if I shine a flashlight at a mirror at a 90-degree angle, that light's going to come straight back at me. Same thing goes with ultrasound. If I go at an up angle, at an increased angle, that light's going to shine off in some different direction. Some of it might bounce back at me, but for the most part, it's going to bounce in a different direction. The same goes for ultrasound. So in different tissues reflect sound in different ways, which is why we have different tissue looks on ultrasound. And the ultrasound probe also knows how fast sound is traveling through the body, so it can use distance equals time times speed as a marker, because it's constantly telling time, and it can tell how long a sound wave takes to go to a structure and come back, determining depth and distance away from the probe, which is how we see depth in ultrasound. Anyway, it's all really complicated, and thank goodness that we have smart people to deal with that. So let's talk about some different probe types. So when you go to do a job, we want to have the right tool for the job. You don't want to go screw in a screw with a hammer, right? So what are the different tools we have when we go to scan a patient with ultrasound? These are the three main ones, right? So we have linear, curvilinear, and phased array. So before I go into that, I want to talk about frequency of the sound. Now, the frequency is really important because the higher the frequency, the higher the image quality. Unfortunately, the less that sound can actually penetrate the tissues, the shallower you can actually go, which is fine if you want to see superficial structures. Not so fine if you want to see deep structures. So that's why we want to have the right tool for the right setting. Also, they have different footplate sizes, and like, for example, the heart, you want to be able to get in between the ribs, so you can't have a really big footplate because you have ribs in the way and sound can't travel through bone, and we can't see past bone. So the first probe we want to talk about is the linear probe. It has a wide footplate, and oh my gosh, it's wide footplate, and it also has the highest frequency. Anywhere between 4 and 12 is kind of the range. So really high image quality, but low penetrance, low depth. So these sound waves are going to come at a linear angle off of that probe, hence the name linear. And this is going to be for musculoskeletal. It's going to be for nerves, for like nerve blocks. It's going to be for vascular access and just assessing vasculature, DVTs, things like that. So that's why that's important. Next, we can go to the curvilinear, and really the only reason it has the word linear in it is because, again, those sound waves are traveling at a 90-degree angle away from the footplate face, and they're traveling kind of in straight lines. This mouse is killing me. Anyway, so it's, as you can see, it's a curved footplate. It's very wide, and it has kind of like a medium frequency. So it's anywhere between 2 and 6 hertz. And that's great for abdominal structures. We can see abdominal structures really well. This is what we use for obstetric ultrasounds a lot. This is the go-to, because we can see a really wide array of image, and since it's got a higher frequency, it can produce a higher image quality. And you also have more of a foot plate, so you have more information coming back to the probe, and it's able to gather more information. You can use it for cardiac stuff, but again, you have to be able to get in between the ribs, and that is more for this guy right here, the phased array probe, also known as the cardiac probe by a lot of cardiologists. And this is because it has a narrow and very small foot plate, so you can get in between the ribs. You can see the heart really well, and the sound actually kind of comes from the center almost of the probe and kind of comes out in an array, if you will. So this is a probe that has anywhere between 2 to 4 hertz, and this is the lowest frequency, highest penetrance. And yeah, you're just be able to, you can use it for abdominal if you don't have a curvilinear probe. Some places just don't have these. You might just have a linear and a phased array. You can use this just fine. So now that you have the probe and you've got it picked out, let's just get oriented. You want to be able to understand why you're placing the probe on a patient a certain way. You want to be able to interpret the image that you get on the other end, and that has everything to do with this guy right here. That image, or that probe marker, is going to correlate with this dot right here on the screen. So that's why we have very conventional ways to place the probe on the patient. The short axis, so more like the horizontal plane, you're going to put that probe marker towards the patient's right. And the long axis, or the vertical axis, more so, you want it towards the head. So why do we care? Orientation. Also, this probe marker demarcates kind of the axis of the scan. So the probe sends out an array, if you will, of the sound waves, or the sound waves, and it's kind of a two-dimensional slice, and it's just a flat kind of cone, and this is kind of demarcating the axis of that scan. That's going to be really important when we get further down the road. So if this is a short axis image, the probe marker's over here, and this is the right side. This is the left side of where the probe is. This is the left second metatarsal. So this is actually a scan that I did on my brother when he was complaining of foot pain. He ended up having a stress fracture. Got to get another mouse. Anyway, so you can actually see that stress fracture. You can see the break in the cortex right here. So anyway, yeah, that was a stress fracture. Anyway, side note. That was just a side note. What I'm talking about is probe markers. This is the right side of the patient. This is the left second metatarsal. And this is the right side of his left foot. What's just to the right of his left second metatarsal? This is going to be the first metatarsal on the left foot. Just a simple way to kind of get into the way you orient yourself when you look at an image. So next, let's talk about how to hold the probe. You have the thing on the patient. How do you hold the thing? This seems really easy, right? But I've seen people do it way wrong, and there's definitely a wrong way to do it. And there's just sometimes you don't really know what to do with your hands, and it is what it is. So this is how not to hold the probe. So obviously, these three are very silly, right? Very silly. But these people actually do these quite a bit. Problem with this one, you've got great control of the probe. Great control. You have all the control in the world. You got a death grip on it. Put it on the patient. Problem is, there's slippery ultrasound goo on the bottom, and you don't have any contact with the patient. You have no base for your probe. All it is sitting on slipperiness. And you put the probe on the patient, turn to look at the machine, you look at the image, and your probe just starts to do this, and all of a sudden you're not looking at the right thing. So, and this you just have no control over the probe. This looks like you're scared of it. You just need to grab it. It's not scary. You want to use it to take care of your patients. So this is how you hold it. All right. Hold it like a pencil, like a big pencil. And you're also going to want to kind of use a tripod grip, right? So here's the first part of the tripod is the probe. Second part is kind of the fingers. And then the third part is kind of the base of the hypothenar eminence on your hand. Together, that forms a really solid base. Like, you put that on a patient, you can turn and look at the probe. It doesn't matter how much gel you have on there. That thing's not going anywhere. And stability is going to increase image quality, and it's going to decrease the amount of time that you have that probe on the patient. It's going to greatly increase how well you do with obtaining scans. So now let's go over probe motion. There's 3 kind of typical motions. Now that you've got the probe on the patient, you have the right handling, you've got the probe where you want it to be, now you just want to fine tune your imaging. Now, first thing you do is you can rock it. So when you look at this, it's just rocking in that same axis of that probe marker. You're just rocking it back and forth. So when I think about rocking, this is what I think about, right? It's a rocking horse. Say the probe marker's over here. You're just rocking in the axis of that probe marker. Next we can do is fanning. So now it's just a different angle or a different orientation. So rather than doing this with the rocking, let's say this is the sound waves. Now you're fanning that sound wave through the tissue, just like that. And that could be important, like I said, just fine-tuning images. So when I think about that, I think about fanning just like this, right? This fan is very similar to what that sound wave and that sound beam is doing in your tissues. Last is rotating. So that's pretty self-explanatory. All you're doing is rotating kind of mostly between long axis and short axis. You can rotate just depending on what you're looking at, but that one's pretty self-explanatory. I didn't have anything good for this, so I had to come up with something. So next, let's talk about depth, right? So one of the important things to know about an ultrasound machine is that as you decrease the depth, the machine actually auto-adjusts the frequency to increase the frequency. So it's a shallower depth. When you increase the frequency, what do you also do? You increase the quality of the image. And also, like in this image, I'm looking primarily at the gallbladder. Okay, so that's at about, and here's the portal vein. So that's about, let's say, max 8 centimeters, because this is demarcated in centimeters. Max 8 centimeters. Okay, what is this extra 16 centimeters doing? It's just wasted space, right? I can actually see little bumps of my vertebrae. So like everything past here is like, I don't even know what that is. It's past my body. It's wasted space and it doesn't need to be there. So let's see, like I can see a kidney here and it's just wasted space and I don't want any of it. So let's decrease the depth to something that's actually reasonable. And look at that image quality. That is way better. I can see like what I'm actually looking at takes up the whole screen. I can assess it better. And again, the image quality improves greatly. So now let's talk about gain. All gain really is the brightness of the image. Why do we care about that? Well, this is a grayscale image. Grayscale images are basically just what's bright, what's not. How do you differentiate bright and dark, or gray, and different shades of gray, and all that is brightness. So let's look at this scan. You can also, so this is very dark, obviously. So this needs to be brighter. So as we increase the gain, we can finally see what it is. This is a kidney. This is a kidney. You can see the liver up here. You can see all of the veins and the vasculature there. You can see the capsule of the kidney. You can see the calyces. You can see some of the medullary pyramids in there. this is a good, this looks really good. You know what you're looking at. You can assess it. You can move on. So now let's see what it looks like when you overgain it, right? This looks just as terrible as the first image. So there's obviously a happy medium in between there, and you just need to find it. Also, to note, this little button down here, if you click that, it toggles the near, middle, and far field. What do I mean by that? So the ultrasound probe is here, and this is the most shallow structure to the ultrasound probe, and this is the deepest structure. And this is the deepest from it. So this is the near field, or the nearest to the probe, and this is the middle, in the middle of the field, and this is the far field. This is furthest away from the probe. So when you go into these settings, you can change the gain in all the different fields in order to optimize what you're looking at and just enhance the image even more, and that's really the name of the game. I'll just briefly go over some nomenclature. This is not like this is pretty self-explanatory. We're just referencing off of this isoechoic grayscale. This is hypoechoic, just darker gray, anechoic, or it's just black. Going on in the other direction, you have hyperechoic, which is more of a white structure. You're going to see, it's going to be like more fibrous tissue and connective tissue and very reflective tissue. And this reflective bit is solid structure, so that's bone and gallstones and kidney stones and things like that. So let's just kind of go over some brief tissue differentiation, and this will be it. So muscle is going to appear kind of marbled, hypoechoic with hyperechoic epimysium. It's kind of a fibrous cap. Bone or fluid is going to be anechoic, right? It's going to be just black. Bone is going to be reflective with that white cortex. Hold on, pause that. Nerves are going to be hyperechoic, and they're going to have a honeycomb look. You can actually see my median nerve right here. This is my forearm, kind of the mid forearm. Soft tissue is going to range from hypoechoic to hyperechoic. It just kind of depends on the organ. You're going to have to get in there and see that. Tendons, this is actually really important. It's going to be hyperechoic at a 90-degree angle. And when you change that angle, it's actually going to become more isoechoic or hypoechoic, which is how you can kind of, when you go to do a nerve block, you say, oh, is that a nerve? Is that a tendon? Just change the angle a little bit, and you'll be able to see whether or not that's a nerve or a tendon. So now let's just kind of play this. You can see the marbled muscle. You can see the very hyperechoic fibrous tissue. You can see my radial artery right here, which is anechoic. This honeycomb median nerve. You can see a fibrous connective tissue down below all the muscles. Now I'll move more laterally. You can see, you can see my radius right here. Radial artery, radius, median nerve. So anyway, that is all I had for that. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.